Go! Hello. Hi. It's your dog. Tanky, big boy. Black bastard here. Here to talk to you today about something that I've kind of wanted to talk about, and that's been brought to my attention constantly. Just wanted to talk about the latest release of God of War and my thoughts on it. And there are quite a few people who think that this isn't the best God of War game, which is fine. But I feel like I can shed some light on this, and I wanted to just share my opinion and say that this is the best God of War game that's ever been released. And let me tell you why. I think that this is the best God of War because it does three things correctly. I think, and that no one or God of War has done very well. I think that it builds characters more in this game than it has done in many God of War games since ever. Honestly, that's what I think. So, and I'll get into that in a minute. I think that this is about the most interesting world that God of War's been in. I think this is way more interesting as far as world building goes that they did even in the Greek mythology world than this Norse mythology type of thing. So I think that does that better than any God of War game. And three, I wanted to say that this has the best characters in any God of War game. And I'll get into that. But I wanted to start with the character development. I want to say that this has the best character development in any God of War game, because throughout all of the God of Wars that we've known, that we've played, that we've gone through, that even though we've played Kratos, this is the most I've known Kratos. This game right here, this freaking game. See that? Focus on that. Yeah. See that? This game is the game that I've learned the most about Kratos. And now, through the past games, it's told a story about Kratos, who is this guy, who is a Spartan warrior, who's been fought countless of battles. And now, the one time that and he's tried to get revenge on the people who've used him as a pawn, who tried to take advantage of him, which they have. In all honesty, they have. So, I feel like that this is the game that we see Kratos the most vulnerable. I think this is the Kratos that we can connect to even more. I think this Kratos that we see, we can relate to more. We can sit here and say, oh, this is wow. You really feel for Kratos more here than you felt than any of the God of War games. And honestly, it's interesting. It's just interesting. Unlike the rest of the God of Wars, we see Kratos normal. We see Kratos as not this crazy bloodthirsty guy who kills anybody who gets in his way, which is who he was in the past God of War games. That's exactly who he was in the past God of War games. This guy who's like, he's all about kill first, ask questions later. He's He's hacking through every single enemy that comes into contact with him. So he's kind of different than that in this game. We see him freaking chopping down a tree. The first scene, the first picture, the first section of the game. He's chopping down a tree like a freaking normie. Like, if this was the past God of Wars, he'd have jumped right into a bloodthirsty killing spree and fought random people. But instead of the hack and slash type of game this is, the past games were, this game slows down. It's not as over the top and ridiculous as the past games were. That's another thing. People think that God of War 2 or God of War 3 is better than this God of War. And as far as if you want to just base that off of pure grand scale action, I agree. But if you want to go as the game as a whole, this game, it does have the ridiculous over-the-top action, but it's not as much as God of War 3. And let me tell you why. This Kratos, and the main reason that he was able to do those over-the-top ridiculous freaking kill a 12-story, like, kill a colossal enemy by freaking taking his own axe and jamming it in his neck. You know, that's the reason he was able to do all those things, is because his fighting and the way he was back then was off of pure anger. This game isn't him being angry anymore. There are scenes where you can see him get like pissed off, but this isn't him anymore. That's not him anymore. He's not driven by just anger and rage anymore. He's not going on this bloodthirsty killing spree of people. He's slowed down. He's getting older. He's not as ridiculous as he once was. And even if he was, he wouldn't want to be. The first boss fight of this game, we see him like restrain himself and hold back, even though the situation clearly was like we're fighting, right? But he's like, listen, you don't want this fight, man. I don't want to fight you. Just leave. And it's a more tame Kratos. It's a Kratos that's more emotional and more deep than we've ever felt from Kratos. And he's also with his son, which we see throughout the entire game. If you played it or haven't played it, throughout this entire game, we know that that's Kratos' son, and we know that he isn't like Kratos. Throughout the entire game, we see both of them bat heads. We see a kid whose innocence and childish behavior is almost getting in the way of his of their journey. And you can see that, like, he, unlike Kratos, who's learned to not really feel anything when he's taking a life, because the dude's taking like so many of them. We see him like, listen, the kid's like, listen, Draugr, which is like one of the main enemies. Draugr, he's like, listen, I know that they're supposed to be dead. You know, I understand killing them. Animals, I get it. We need food, but humans, I don't know. And Kratos is like, listen, close your heart to it, boy. He says boy a lot in this game. Boy. He says, close your heart to it. the more you constantly think about it, the more it's going to haunt you. The more not focused you're going to be. And we clearly see that. We see him care for enemies, and we see him like sympathize with people, unlike Kratos, who is this guy who's already, listen, everybody who he's trusted is dead. Everybody who he's sympathized with is dead. You know, the people who he did trust were the gods, and yet I don't know where that went. But here it's slower. It's more focus on the characters instead of the blood, gore, and killing. And we see that Atreus, throughout going through their adventure, is constantly changing, as kids do. He learns certain things and his whole attitude changes. We know, like, as Kratos is trying to build him to be this kid who's trying to survive and learns how to utilize what's around him to the best of his ability, we see him change emotionally. He doesn't start to be this just playful kid anymore. Like, he's like, listen, I know what we gotta kill this guy. He's a bad guy. Let's kill him. Just freaking cut off his head. But I think it does that amazingly. The characters that we do see, they're even built pretty well. There's more emotion. This game brings you a lot of emotional attachment to Kratos and Atreus. Hell, even the villain sometimes is like, whoa, you know, you didn't know that, you know, but it's crazy. There's more emotion in this game than there's ever been in a God of War game, because you don't have time to sit here and feel for an enemy, or feel for Kratos, or feel for an ally that he may acquire on the way, you know, because it doesn't do it as well as it does in this game. And in the past God of War games, they're either gonna die, or they're gonna Kratos is gonna sacrifice him or kill him, you know. So that's something that this God of War game does that no other God of War has done. That's just the end of it. And the world that we're in also, even though we were in Greek mythology, and we were in we were in Spartan, we were in Athens, we were in, I forgot the rest of the places. You know, through all the places you are, it kind of just becomes meshed up. The God of Wars before this were purely killing entertainment. Like, the fun of the game is meant to push you through by you killing certain different things and watching them die in a certain way. It was a hack and slash game. It was mainly just a hack and slash game. It's got story here and there, yes, but honestly, it doesn't really build up any type of attachment to anything. And especially in God of War 3, where that anger and that rage that Kratos has reaches that peak. It comes to a head, and it's like, you know, it's like just the main thing that's driving you is just what am I gonna kill next? That was honestly what drives you in most of these God of War games. Is like, well, what am I gonna kill next? Who's my next target? You know? But in this game, especially the world, exploring these realms, Vanheim, Helheim, Niflheim. It's Niflheim, but I call it Niflheim. Those realms are different and unique in their own way. And Mimir, the person you you meet along the way, he tells tales of like certain lore, and like Atreus is asking like, what tales can you tell us today, Mimir? Like, and it's like, oh, I've got a small tale to tell. He's like, this is the one of Freya, and he's like, the goddess of the tree. And he's like, oh, the goddess of the tree. Like, it's interesting, and you learn more about this world, and you feel the world around you. Unlike the past God of War games, where you just kind of go there, you kill a thing, you get a thing, you dip. There's no real world building. There's like, hey, an enemy's here, kill it, dip. You know, that's mainly what that's for. At the end of God of War, Jotunheim is the places you're supposed to be getting to. You want to get to Jotunheim. For the people who've played the game throughout the entire game, you're thinking, I need to get to Jotunheim. I must get to Jotunheim. And then you're almost close, and it's like, I need to get to Jotunheim. You know? I like you haven't even been there, and you want to go there. You don't even know what's there, and you want to go there. They talk about it so much, and yet you want to go there. Yeah, that's just what that is. But as far as the world around you, it looks better than it's ever looked. It's more filled with things to do than the past God of War games. There's more depth to this world than it's ever been. And I feel like that even though that this game isn't the most over-the-top ridiculous thing like the past God of War games have been, you care about this one the most. Whether you like it or hate it, you know what this game is. You know where you're going. You know, and you care about where you're going next. What are the three things? What was the third thing? Characters? I think it was characters. Yeah, I think it was characters. As far as characters go. Combat. The combat in this game is also another thing. The combat in this game is not as ridiculous as the past God of War games were, but I feel like it's more in depth than it's ever been. I feel like this game's combat isn't as fast-paced and ridiculous as the past God of War games, but it still feels good to attack. It feels better to attack in this game than it did in the past God of War games, especially 3, where there's so many different ways to rip a head off a limb. Like it still feels good to this day. I've already beaten and streamed the game, and I could still go back there, go in the world, throw an axe, catch it. Still feels like it's like the first day. I'm like, oh, when that axe comes back, it makes that freaking wood sound. That's amazing. It's amazing, honestly. Still feels good. Doing the grab moves still feels good. You know, it's more focused than it is in the past ones. The combat is a bit more in depth than it is in the last ones. And yeah, it is like Dark Souls, honestly. I wanted to refrain from saying just like Dark Souls, but honestly, dude, you get a shield and you get an axe. And you roll, and you lock on. And you get a guy to shoot arrows. That's almost like Dark Souls. You get special abilities. It's like Dark Souls, honestly. But that's a part of the reason what made Dark Souls fun, is the combat. It's not ridiculous and over the top, but for some reason engages you more than the ridiculous and over the top stuff. Because whatever you're killing is forgettable. when you're doing the ridiculous over the top stuff, it's just a freaking peon just in the way, and you want to move it. You know, it's a lot more intuitive. But I think the characters in this game are the best than they've ever been. It's more focused than it's ever been in a God of War game. In my opinion, it's the best characters that we've had. Because honestly, besides some of the gods, Kratos' brother and his wife and kid, who else do you honestly want to sit here and care about? Do you truly care about, honestly? Who honestly do you truly care about, you know? But these characters, I care more about Atreus in this one game and give a shit about Atreus more than in this one game than I've cared about Athena since the first God of War game came out. I care and have an emotional attachment more to Atreus in this game than I have ever had of the times freaking Zeus has been in the games. I feel more for Kratos now than I've ever felt in the past freaking 5-6 God of War games there's been. You grow an attachment to Kratos because he's not this just invincible freak of nature that just kills whatever's in its way. No, he takes his time. It's less ridiculous. It's more focused on the specific things than it is about just the gameplay as a whole. And I think it does God of War justice. And I think this is the best game that we've got from Santa Monica Studios from the God of War series. Better than 1, better than 2, better than 3, Ghost of Sparta, the other PSP game. But that's honestly what I think. I've played them all. And this whole game is about gods and immortality and power and stuff like that. But I feel like this is the most human. I feel like this is the most human that God has ever felt. I feel like I know more. This is the best human that we see out of a god. And that's all I wanted to say. Whoever watches this video, hit me up if you think you can prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. I'd love to be proven wrong. I'd like to see what you think. Whoever finds this video, put it in the comments. I'm gonna be streaming here in just a second. I'm gonna be just streaming For Honor today. I haven't played the game in a long time, but I'll see what the game has to offer. I'll be streaming it up here in a bit later. Yeah, I give God of War 9 squawks, 9 bird flaps out of 10. And that's it. And I will see you later.